Hi, I'm Diane. Welcome to my channel. So, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2016, and I've been following the carnivore diet for the past 14 months. And I have healed nearly 100% of symptoms that I have of MS by following the carnivore diet. So, the carnivore diet is a diet that eliminates all plants, all carbohydrates, and focuses on fatty meat. It's the total opposite of everything we've ever been taught in nutrition. I found it through YouTube by listening to some influencers, some doctors who are following the carnivore diet and also treating patients with the carnivore diet. And at first I thought it was crazy. It took me months to figure out that it was the right thing for my symptoms. And I began the carnivore diet on March 5th, 2024, and never looked back because in 3 weeks, my symptoms of fatigue and brain fog lifted considerably. Each day, each week, symptoms began disappearing. I have dedicated my life at this point to talking about the carnivore diet and its benefits on health. I am a mental health therapist. I realize the impact the brain has on whether someone will stick with a program such as the carnivore diet. So it's mindset, folks. Mindset. How are you dealing with the thoughts, the feelings, the behaviors, and the beliefs that are going on inside you about the carnivore diet? At first, my thought was, this diet is crazy. I cannot do this. I can't give up my vegetables. I can't give up my carbohydrates. And I was eating pretty healthy. I wasn't eating the snacky junk foods in the aisles in the middle of the grocery store. I was basically eating from all sides. And then, every once in a while I would have something. And I would eat a lot of vegetables. And my thought was, I can't give all that up. And why would I give that up? Let me tell you why. Because it healed the symptoms of MS where nothing else did. The strongest tier of medications available for MS patients did not touch the symptoms. It only gave me a chance of not having a relapse by only about 40%. And that's it. There is no cure for MS, and I do not say that I am cured. I say that the symptoms are reversed. They are nearly 100% gone. So for me, the choice is easy because nothing else worked. I have tried various other diets. Believe me, there are diets specifically for multiple sclerosis that I have tried. And I have followed exactly. I have listened exactly to what my doctor tells me to do, which really isn't much. Except for the medication, they don't tell you much else. They tell you to adhere to the medication schedule, which I did, and kind of hope for the best. Doctors do not say diet can help at all. But then I started doing my research and found other doctors that were saying that these various diets were good for MS, and I followed each one to the letter, to the T, with no success. And then the belief system that I had was, yes, my doctor is right. Diet does not help until I found the carnivore diet. I have so much more potential in my life at this point. I am able to do way more because one of the things they tell you is you need to, you have to look at your life and you have to only do one thing a day, prioritize. If it's the day that you go grocery shopping, go grocery shopping. If it's the day that you clean your bathroom, just clean your bathroom. If it's the day that you visit friends, just visit friends. And then that's it. And that's what I did. And I'd do one thing and I would sit on the recliner or I'd take a nap and that would be it for the day. Now I can work out at the gym, I can visit friends, I can go grocery shopping, I can join clubs, I can read books, I can go to a park, I can go to the beach, and I can do that in one day and still feel pretty okay by the end of the day. And that is just so wonderful to me because I get to live my life. So, given that choice, give up carbs, vegetables, and be able to live my life, or eat whatever I want and sit in a recliner for the rest of the day. Given that choice and having it so clear in front of my face makes following the carnivore diet easy. It's easy because it works. The problem is you don't know if it works. You can't see, you can't feel it, you can't know it in your soul. You don't know that it works until you try it exactly and follow it exactly. In my case, for 3 weeks. 3 weeks was the turnaround. Some people, it takes a bit longer. Some people, it can take 30 days. Some people, it can take 3 months. But given that this way of eating has the potential to turn your life around, it's worth trying. It's worth experimenting with your own body. So what are the barriers? There are definite barriers that come with following this carnivore diet. And I really kind of don't even like calling it a diet because I've been on diets my whole life. Diets are restrictive. Diets you can go on and off of. It's a carnivore lifestyle. I live my life, and this is what I do. I eat meat. Sounds crazy, I know, especially if you have not tried it. So back to the barriers. The first barrier is your own mind. Your own mind says carnivore is crazy. This diet is not healthy. This diet can cause gout, scurvy, high LDL, heart attack, death. Why would I even try it? Ladies and gentlemen, that's your brain talking. That is your limiting belief about the human body and about what we can and cannot eat. That is the years of conditioning that you have been exposed to by your very well-meaning parents, your very well-meaning doctors and nutritionists, friends, community, society, commercials, everything that's given input to your brain. Starting from when you're a little girl or a little boy and you're sitting down for dinner and your mother says, eat your vegetables because you'll be healthy. And you hated them. And you shoved them in your cheek. And when she wasn't looking, you spit them into a napkin because they were not good. They tasted horrible to you. I know, I did it too. And I raised 3 sons who also, 2 of them would eat the vegetables. One of them, no way, no how, he would not touch a veggie. So I understand that barrier. Whatever you were told when you were a child kind of gets ingrained, gets imprinted into your brain. But when you kind of turn it around and you look at little kids and you say, they don't like vegetables, there's probably a reason they don't like vegetables. It's probably like an innate dislike of poisonous substances. Because I'm sorry to tell you, plants are poisonous. Would you walk in the woods and get a little hungry and just pick something and eat it and not know what it is? Because, there's only a few vegetables on this earth that we can eat and survive. I don't believe anymore that we thrive with them, but we'll survive. They're not going to kill us right away, but eventually, with all the poisons inside of them, and they build up in our bodies, like the oxalates and the lectins and the various other chemicals that are in the vegetables, they build up in our bodies and they wreak havoc. And they wreaked havoc with me because I ended up in 2 instances having kidney stones. I end up having they diagnosed it as rheumatoid arthritis, but I don't know. It could have been oxalates in my joints. It could have been anything, because they tried to test by sticking a very large needle into my ankle joint, and they couldn't get fluid out. So it was never confirmed that it was rheumatoid arthritis. It could have been from oxalates. My eyes swelled up like you wouldn't believe, like balloons, and this would happen over and over and over and over again it was the fall of 2022, I believe, that my eyes began, it could have been 2023, my eyes began swelling up. And I went to 5 different eye doctors, and nobody knew why this was occurring. I'll put a picture up. You guys will be amazed at what this looked like. And I thought it was something to do with MS. Turns out it wasn't. But 5 different eye doctors couldn't tell me why my eyes looked like they did. So there's all these mystery symptoms along with the MS. I had plantar fasciitis for years and years and years and years. And it wasn't until I gave up gluten some time ago that the plantar fasciitis disappeared. And I know that because if I eat anything with gluten in it, 2 days later, the plantar fasciitis pain comes back. I know many people that have gone on the carnivore diet from a standard American diet and have their plantar fasciitis has gone. And I believe that it's gluten, which gluten is another substance in plants. Because remember, wheat, barley, they are plants. They're high carb plants. We call them carbohydrates, but they're plants. Pasta is a plant. A loaf of bread is a plant. So if we stay away from plants and eat animal products, that is the ultimate elimination diet. And I really recommend that if you have been thinking about following an elimination diet, think about the carnivore diet. Because nobody, unless you've been bitten by, I think it's called the Lone Star tick, that's when people have trouble with meat, right? They get allergic to meat for a couple of years because the tick bit them. But if that's not your problem, you're not going to have an allergic reaction to meat, to beef, to fatty meat. And the fat, oh my gosh, this is another thing that blew my mind. The fat is the healthy thing that you should be eating. When you eat a steak, don't cut the fat off and put it on the side of your plate. Eat it. Eat the fat. The fat is your fuel. Okay, so you have 2 systems, folks, okay? And if you don't believe me, Google it. You have one system that sugars and carbs are your fuel. And that's basically where everyone lives. So people will eat a balanced diet and have their carbohydrates and their vegetables, which are also carbohydrates. There might be, some of them might be lower, some of them might be higher, but they're still carbohydrates. So the carbohydrate will fuel them, where the protein will repair their body, their muscles, their bones, their ligaments. In a child, it will help build their body, because protein makes protein. And we're made of protein, so we need protein. So That is the premise of the balanced diet. Limit the fat. Oh boy, you don't want fat because it makes you fat. Don't eat the fat. That's what we were told. So that's one path. Or was it this side? Was it this side? This, whatever side it was. I think it was this side. That's the typical diet. That's what we were raised on. That's what we were told. That's what we did. Now, with keto and carnivore, ketovore, metabolic ketogenic diet, these types of eating, you tap into a fuel source that not many people tap into. It's a fat burning process where you're not really burning fat. You're turning the fat in the liver into these things called ketone bodies. I know, it can be a scary word for somebody because we've heard that ketosis, ketone, that got a bad rap too because type 1 diabetics can get this very dangerous thing that happens to them where they get a ketosis from eating fat. I don't know what they tell them to eat, but I'm assuming that that's where it comes from. But if you're not a type 1 diabetic, you really don't have to worry about that. It's not dangerous. Being in ketosis is actually a state that is so beneficial to your mind and body. It's something I test every day. I test my blood with this little device. I wish I brought it here with me. I'll show it to you. It's called a Keto Mojo. Now, the Keto Mojo tests what your blood glucose is and what your ketone level is. And the key is to have your blood glucose low and your ketones high. And when that happens, that means your brain and your body are being fueled with ketones rather than sugar, which when I say sugar, it's sugar and carbohydrates together make up your blood sugar level, right? It's all the same. Carbohydrates, sugar, all the same. Fat makes ketones. Ketones fuel your brain and body in the absence of ingested sugars. And after being primed on this diet for several days, several weeks, it depends on your body and it depends how, they call it fat adapted. Probably not a good term. Probably how easy is it for your body to switch from sugar burning to fat burning. So that may take some time. And it's very beneficial because once you are burning fat, you can also use your stored fat as fuel. And don't worry about it if you're too thin because we all have enough fat on our body to use. So even if you feel as though you don't have enough fat on your body and you want to keep what you have, it's not going to cause you to get too thin. And you know what? If it does, eat a little bit more protein and fat. Because this type of diet helps your body to maintain a healthy level, whether you're too thin, too heavy, or a good weight. Your body will come to a homeostasis and it will maintain a good body weight. So that's just a little bit of the background. And I know I didn't get really too technical. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I am a therapist. So let's talk about the brain. Let's talk about what happens in the mind when you decide to go on a low carbohydrate, ketogenic, metabolic, carnivore, keto, paleo diet. So it goes against the norms, right? Everybody's out there just eating what they want to eat. You know, food is entertainment. Food is parties. Food is get-togethers. And on top of that, we have drinks, which are alcohol. And alcohol is even one step higher than sugar and carbohydrates because your body has to burn the alcohol before it will even touch the sugars. So in this world that we have where, it's wonderful that people are celebrating. I just think it's the best thing ever to get together with friends and have a good time. However, I'm getting to think that you don't have to do it around food. Play frisbee or go to the beach, take a walk, go to the mountains, take a hike, go kayaking. We can celebrate with friends and still be active and not focus on the food because it seems to be centered around food. And I've noticed it since I haven't been centered around food, that everything that I'm invited to, everything I go to is centered around food. So it's conditioning, it's culture. We are told that these things are what we should be doing. And when we get together with friends, we are supposed to be eating a lot. We are supposed to be going out to dinner, having drinks. We are supposed to be enjoying food merely for entertainment and not for nourishment. No one's talking about nourishment. And it's really funny because then when you say you're not eating vegetables, they get really, really afraid for my nourishment. But they're not nourishing. Nobody's thinking about nourishment until I tell people I don't eat vegetables. Then they get really, really concerned about it. So culture, belief system, conditioning. What about emotions? What about when you've had a tough day? Maybe your boss was on your case. Maybe things weren't getting done the way they should. Maybe you made a mistake. Maybe you had a coworker who you had some problems with. The day wasn't going good. And you come home and you deserve to have that piece of cake. And you deserve to have that glass of wine. Because when you do, it's going to help you. It's going to help your emotions. It's going to help you feel better. Really? You've been told that it's going to make you feel better. It's going to make you feel worse. It's going to numb you for a minute. Yeah, it's going to numb you. You can mindlessly stick your hand in a bag of chips and eat them one by one and take about a half an hour to decompress. And then you're going to reach your hand in the bag and there's going to be none there. And you have eaten them all. Then how are you going to feel? You're going to feel like opening the refrigerator and seeing what else is in the refrigerator because that's not going to satisfy you. Because it's not satisfying to do that. We've been conditioned to believe that it will be satisfying to do that because we deserve it. We deserve to relax with that glass of wine that turns into 2, 3, 4, maybe a bottle of wine. And then, then you're relaxed. You're relaxed, but you're not going to sleep because you're going to fall asleep very, very easily. And at 3 a.m, you're going to be awake because that's what alcohol does. It prevents you from sleeping. It makes it difficult if you want to lose weight, and it really makes you crave other foods so that while you're drinking that glass of wine, you've got to have some kind of food with that. I don't know, maybe some chips and hummus, maybe a hamburger with the bun and everything else that goes with it and some French fries. It's not going to be a ribeye steak cooked to perfection with no sides. That's not what you're going to crave. I know this because I was there. My things were nachos. I would just whip up some nachos with some sour cream and some cheese on top and salsa. and just mindlessly eat them until they were gone. And I did not feel better when they were gone. I wanted more. It felt like more because that's what the food industry does. It crafts these non-food items so that we want more. More, more, more. Chips, cookies, anything that you get that is high carb, they have whole groups of people that they hire, scientists. They have people that test these things. They try to concoct a recipe that will make these things hard to resist, make them so you can't eat just one. The Lay's commercial, you can't just eat one. And that you'll keep on going back over and over again to these food items because they become like a feeling that you love these food items. They're not really food. They're manufactured food. And you develop a love affair with the nacho. How does that even happen? Because I'll say to people, I'm following the carnivore diet. I just eat fatty red meat. And they look at me and they say, I can't give up my nachos. And I want to say, I didn't ask you to give up your nachos. But that's where their brain goes. They cannot give up their food. Cannot give up their food. Can't. No how, no way. Even if, first of all, I didn't ask them. I was just telling them what I was doing. But I'm finding that even if someone is diagnosed with a terminal or a chronic illness, they can't give their food up. First of all, I think it's because they're not realizing that if they give it up, they will regain health. Because that has not been told to anyone. I mean, it's very, very simple. When I gave up the food items and began only eating fatty red meat, I reversed nearly 100% the symptoms of multiple sclerosis. So yes, folks, I gave something up. I gave up eating items that I enjoyed eating. However, I gained health, well-being, a future, at least a present. I can be only guaranteed of the present. I gained a present feeling of health and well-being by not eating foods that I love. Was it hard? Not when I put it in that context. When I look at it objectively and say, I gain health by not eating nachos, sure, I'll give up the nachos to feel this way, and I'll do it every single day for as long as I can. Right? I'm not going to tell you that I'm following the carnivore diet for the rest of my life because thinking that thought can be a little intimidating, can be a little painful, but I will give up eating the foods I love for today to feel this good. And tomorrow I'll wake up and I'll think about it again and I'll say, yeah, it's worth feeling this way. And I'm going to give up the foods today so I can continue feeling this way. But before I felt this way, that was the hard part. That was the hard part because I was kind of giving stuff up and not getting anything yet. So that's where faith comes in. That's where trust comes in. I trusted what I heard on YouTube. Not entirely, not completely, but I said, it's worth trying this thing. It's worth trying it. So I can do the tough stuff for 30 days. Anyone can do it for 30 days. I'm telling you, you can do it for 30 days. You can do the tough stuff for 30 days. And I made a commitment to do that. And I didn't make the commitment until I was ready to do that. And that was difficult because the cravings were tough. You know, I'd see a commercial and I was like, oh my goodness, that looks so good. Or I'd be out somewhere and I'd see someone eat something. I'm like, oh my goodness, that looks so good. Wow, I wish I could have that. And I felt sorry for myself. Oh, poor me. I can't have that. It was tough. After the 3-week mark, it got easier because I knew that by giving up that whatever it is, I gained this health, this vitality, I didn't even talk about the moods. I've always been a moody person. The mood change was incredible. Depression gone. Anxiety gone. I didn't have like a debilitating case of anxiety. But if you do, it's worth a try because that really stinks. To not be able to socialize, to not be able to go out with people, to not be able to, it's very debilitating. Being anxious is very, very debilitating. And if you are anxious, this is worth a try. And when I say try, I don't mean a day. When I say try, I don't mean let me eat some fatty meat and also eat some French fries with it. No, that's not what I'm saying. I mean try exactly. Follow it exactly for 30 days. So the emotions get better. However, there's another side to the emotions that come in every once in a while, and I wanted to talk to you guys about that. Because it happens to me every once in a while where I get this, I call it the oh poor me's, and it happens mostly around triggers. If I'm out somewhere and I see people eating a certain thing that I used to enjoy eating, or commercials are huge. Or these news programs where they feature different restaurants or different countries where they serve different foods. They say it's a tour of Italy. It's really not. It's a tour of their restaurants. So when I see things like that, yeah, I can feel so bad for myself. I'm like, oh, poor me. Oh, poor me. What I've learned to do, I don't know if this is going to help anyone, but I've learned to identify it. Oh, these are the oh, poor me's. So let's think about that. Oh, poor me. No, I can't eat that pizza. Or maybe I can eat that pizza, but I choose not to eat that pizza. That's a better feeling thought, right? I can't eat that pizza really sucks as a thought, but I choose not to eat that pizza. Feels a little better. When I say the thought, by not eating that pizza, I get to be healthy. Wow. That thought is like way better than I can't eat that pizza. I guess what I'm saying, I remind myself of what I get by not eating that food-like substance. I remind myself that I get to enjoy health. I get to enjoy well-being. I get to smile. I get to move. I don't have a cane. I don't have a walker. I don't have a wheelchair. Because you know what? If I spent the rest of my days eating items like that, that's where it'd be. That really sucks for me, right? Because there's not a lot of people that have that thing that they can either choose between a pizza with a wheelchair and walking, right? Not many people have that as clear as I have in my brain. But there are many people that might be a little bit true for them. It might be. But that's what I do when these emotions hit, is I clarify this and I give myself a choice. Yeah, I can have that. I have every ability to buy a pizza, to make a pizza, to eat a pizza, to enjoy a pizza. I can invite friends over for a pizza. I can do all of that. But I have to remind myself on a daily basis that I am choosing not to do that. And I'm choosing not to do that because eventually I will have to do that from a wheelchair. And my cognition will probably not be clear when I'm doing it. I will choose feeling like I feel today every single time when presented with that problem, when presented with that choice, right? So the emotions get in the way. People have, I'm working through emotional attachment to food-like substances. What? Yes, people are emotionally attached to their food. I love bagels. I could never do the carnivore diet because I love bagels. Really? You love them? You love bagels more than you love your health. Sorry, that's what it comes down to. Sure, I've enjoyed a good bagel. I don't love them. I love my family. I love being healthy. I love summertime and going out in a kayak and going for a walk and all the things that life has for me. Loving a bagel. You got to check that. You got to check that emotion. Thoughts. We talked a little bit about thoughts and how thoughts can get in your way. So your thoughts about food. One thought is, I deserve to go out to dinner tonight and eat anything I want because I'm celebrating, fill in the blank, I'm celebrating my birthday, which I just celebrated my birthday, by the way. Last Friday, I turned 60. And in this country, and I think in this world, I think there's a belief that you really don't have a birthday if you don't eat cake. People will go out of their way to buy you cake, to bring you cake. Cake is love. Again, we're going into the emotions. But the thought is, when you have a birthday, you eat cake. When you have a birthday, you go to a restaurant or you have someone cook for you and you eat whatever you want because you deserve it. It's your birthday. I'm 60 years old and I feel better today than when I turned 50. 50 was a tough decade for me. It was riddled with diagnosis. It was riddled with hospital stays, doctor's appointments, strong medications. It just was not a decade that I enjoyed. I've come through that. I've reached 60. And the way I celebrate is with a delicious steak at a wonderful steakhouse with my family. And we had such a fabulous time. And I didn't miss the cake because it's not in my purview right now. Cake is not in my world. Cake has been taken out of my world. Steak, not cake. That was my mantra leading up to my 60th birthday. So there are many, many thoughts, and these thoughts turn into belief systems. So you think a thought long enough, or you think a thought with people, and you speak the thought to people, and they speak the thought to you, and it gets in your brain and stays there and kind of rattles around, it becomes a belief system. For example, the carnivore diet is not sustainable. How many times have you heard that? Well, it's a thought. It's a thought that is spoken. It's a thought that is heard. And it's a thought that is believed. Many people believe it. Well, I'm going to tell you something that's opposite that belief is that I have been following the carnivore diet for 14 months, and I have not cheated once because I don't want to cheat, because I don't get cravings, and because I realize the benefit of following this diet. Think about that one for a while. Speak about that for a while. Perhaps it will become a belief system. It's a belief system of mine. It's how I live my life. Plain and simple. It's become a way of life. Another way we live our life is through behaviors. So our behaviors around food. Sometimes, you can start a carnivore diet and you know that you're really not hungry. You're eating fatty meat. The cravings are going away. However, you're used to snacking. So these snacks, you're used to doing something with your hands like every 2-3 hours, like putting your hands in chip bags or crinkling things or opening the refrigerator or looking in the cabinets or, thinking is behavior too. So you're thinking about food. All these things are happening and you're making some of these things happen, but you're doing it out of habit. It's a behavior that you have done your entire life around food. Once you're not getting cravings anymore, it can be troubling because you're used to doing something with your hands and you're used to eating stuff. And people get distressed when they decide they don't have an appetite because they don't know what to do with themselves anymore. There's no snacking, there's no eating, there's no packing stuff or going into stores and, gas stations and getting some snacks for the ride, or when you're driving, eating whatever you chose to eat when you were driving. There's none of that. It can be distressing to change your behaviors. Just know that when your cravings become less, causing your behaviors to change, it's okay. It's okay. So what might be a good strategy for you to do is to write a long list of things that you've always wanted to do, but you haven't had time to do. Have you wanted to read some books? Have you wanted to start, sewing or knitting? Have you wanted to start crafts? Have you wanted to learn a skill like art or music? This might be a good time to do that, to kind of fill in the space where you had all of this snacking going on. Even something like walking to work. Perhaps you used to walk to work and you used to stop in your favorite food shop to get a morning snack and you'd see the people there. That's going to change too. And the people may change. Just know that. It's kind of like when an alcoholic doesn't drink anymore and now she doesn't go to a bar to see all her friends. She's got to find friends other places. It's kind of like that. You're not going to be able to go into your donut shop in the morning unless you could just get a coffee and be okay with it. But that might be down the road. That might not be right away. So there are behaviors that you're going to have to work on changing around food, and there are going to be behaviors that are going to be removed from your life that are going to leave a huge hole where they once were. Just being aware of that is huge. It's huge. So I talk about these 4 parts of life. Emotions or feelings is one. Thoughts is another. Behaviors and beliefs. And sometimes when something is troubling you, to look at what the thought is to identify the emotion, to find out what the behavior is, and to look at the belief system around it is so very valuable. That is called cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's the way that I practice in my mental health practice. And it's valuable as a carnivore to be able to see these things clearly. And if you're not seeing them clearly, to be able to contemplate them, to be able to think about them, to be able to work through them. So if you want to put in the comments, what have you been dealing with in the carnivore diet? Have your thoughts been getting in the way? Have your feelings been getting in the way? What about your belief system and the belief system you were ascribed into as a young child? And what about your behaviors? Some things that maybe you've had to change or things that you want to change. I like thinking about those 4 parts of life and how they affect what I am doing. I find it helps. I find it helps a lot. Thank you for listening. And if you want more videos like this, please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.